Truth is, like, it doesn't matter how old you are, if you need help in an area that you're not familiar with, there's nothing wrong with asking for help, because when you write something down, you have to face it. You know, it's a fact. This is how much is coming in, this is how much is going out, and this is where it's going. And now you have control to change those numbers around.
In today's episode, we're going to talk about the 10 frightening retirement statistics that will scare you into action. So in this article, let's see here. The first one they say on this 10 scary retirement statistics is 37% of Americans have more credit card debt than retirement savings. What do you think about when you hear that?
I mean, I think about how a lot of our society is thinking about today and not tomorrow. And so living today, putting it on a card, and then, you know, taking home more of your money by not putting any of your paycheck into, you know, a company-sponsored retirement plan. I guess I just followed a plan that someone who I thought was older and wiser than me suggested. And so I just kind of stayed on that path. And along the way, I tried to learn a little bit more. But not everyone's as boring as I am and willing to read financial books right out of school. But yeah, I can believe it. And I feel for people who are living with credit card debt and not planning for their retirement, because no one wants to work forever.
Yeah, so I hear two different stories here when I looked into this. I mean, not this particular article, but when I was, you know, perusing. One was saying, hey, I don't want to retire, and like, it's too late now. I should have enjoyed my life. Before it hit like mid 60s, right? Or there are those who actually are of retirement age, 65 or 70, sadly 70, so I have nothing retired. I wish I saved up. So like there's these two
extremes.
Different, yeah, where what is that kind of right balance? And I do agree with you that there are people who are putting things on debt to enjoy the moment now, and they really haven't prepared for the future. And that's kind of the scary part there, because do they have a plan?
Right.
And I'm hoping that when people hear this, they kind of reflect on themselves. Like, am I one of those people who have an enormous amount of credit card debt? I mean, what is their plan? I'm not too sure.
Right. I think a deeper question to ask is, how did I get into so much credit card debt? How am I one of the 37% of Americans who has more credit card debt than retirement savings? And then, you know, is it comparison to, you know, it's no longer just a comparison of the Joneses next door, right? Yeah. You have comparison on social media.
That's the hard part.
All day. Yeah. And you see people who are living it up, and you're like, why can't I? YOLO.
Yeah. Nothing
wrong with living it up today. But, you know, I think there's got to be a balance. You've got to find a way to enjoy your life now and save for the future. I'm not saying like vacations are not allowed. I think definitely you have to find a way to enjoy today, but not in a way that's going to make you in debt.
Yeah, totally agree. So the second one here is, and remember these are scary retirement statistics. This one here says social security payments are less than $22,500 a year. So this is in July 2024, most retired people got an average of $1,871 per month from Social Security. So talking about our plan for the future, I don't even know where will Social Security be at that time? Will there be anything left? So we've actually made the assumption that there will not be any Social Security.
And I think that's how we've started our marriage off.
Yeah.
Within the first year of being married, I think we met with a financial advisor, not because we had anything and not because we even had kids, but just to kind of plan for our future.
Yeah.
And I think when they ask you like your risk tolerance questions and stuff, they also asked us how we felt about Social Security or how long we plan on working. And we just flat out said, let's just not include that in the calculation.
Yeah.
Like if there's going to be something from there, great. If not, then at least we've already planned for it.
Yeah.
We've adjusted for it.
What's scary is that $22,450 a year. Do people have alternative or supplemental retirement income, or are they truly banking on Social Security to supplement their life?
Yeah.
22,000 is very different where you live. Cost of living, I mean, especially if you do not own your own house. Right now, it's filming, cost of groceries are going up. How far can this $22,500 go? So we recommend that aside from Social Security, you really should diversify your portfolio when it comes to retirement. Going back to the first one, that people are on credit card debt, they really should start setting aside something at least so that they don't fully depend on the Social Security thing. So
I don't think you need to make a lot.
No.
You don't need to make a lot to start investing in the future. I mean, like they teach you in school, compound interest. Like it's a magical thing and it works.
So next one here is only 61% of Americans own stocks. So I think people should invest their money. We talked about this earlier today about coffee, right? If you want to save some money, and then don't buy the coffee, but you don't let that money just sit there. You should invest that money, let it grow.
Right. So you've seen like memes of like not buying coffee for a year is still not going to be enough to buy a house. Well, true, but that $5 coffee could be making money and in time be worth more.
Yeah. I think people should take advantage, right? Obviously, you got to get your debt under control, but take that balance. Try to find a way to invest for your future, at the same time not feeling deprived as well. So I think there's a really good balance in there. Next one here says 30% of people in debt are either struggling or in a crisis with their money. It says here, one of the biggest problems with debt is that it takes away of your most important wealth building tool, your income, which is true, right? Because we talk about cash flow, right? The money that comes in from your paycheck. Okay, now you got taxes, you got bills, you have debt. All that slowly chips away from your potential net income. If you have so much debt, what money do you have to actually set aside for something important? So I once again, trying to get control of debt is very key. And in today's society, especially social media, it's really hard to avoid. And social media kind of lets you think that
it's okay.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this title, it says are either struggling or in crisis with their money. I feel like that 38% of people are aware that the debt that they have is detrimental, as opposed to someone who may say, yeah, I've got X amount of debt. It's fine. Like, whatever. I'm not worried about it. But those 38% of people who are aware of this, I feel like it's important to know that, there is a way to take control of it. Like, this is not the end of the road.
Next one here says 78% of Americans, 78% of American workers are living paycheck to paycheck. Oh, that really hurts.
Yeah.
Kind of going back to the previous one of just debt, bills, eating up the income, that they really don't have much left. So the question becomes, what can they do, right? We talked about maybe can you find another job to kind of increase your gross income.
I think the first thing to do
Yeah.
is, because I bet
Yeah.
see 70% of people don't have a budget
Mm.
written down, because when you write something down, you have to face it. It's a fact. This is how much is coming in, this is how much is going out, and this is where it's going. And now you have control to change those numbers around, right? You know how much is coming in. Let's say you don't have time to pick up a second job. You also are going to write down what's going out. Are any of those things that you can live without for now, right? So if Netflix is on there and you're struggling to living paycheck to paycheck, that subscription could go toward, even if it's small, like you might think it's insignificant, that small amount can make a big difference over time, right? Because it's making a big difference over time right now. It's putting you living paycheck to paycheck. It's just that much closer, right? So, writing it down and understanding, like, is there anything on this list that I can live without for now? And then that just gets you thinking into other creative ways. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of Netflix or whatever. I don't mean to bash on Netflix. I just mean, like, something that is a subscription. You're always getting pinned on it every single month.
Yeah.
But is it necessary? If it's entertainment you're looking for, there's free entertainment, right? There's a regular television. There's a library where you can rent DVDs or whole seasons of television shows. Like, let's say there's an old show that you didn't want to watch. Yes, you will be missing out on current shows. You will not be able to engage in those conversations at work about the latest show that just came out. But is that conversation worth more than getting out of living paycheck to paycheck?
So I thought about something else. We were also looking at someone's transactions, and they had a lot of eating out too. So aside from like your streaming show services or like your gym memberships, I think everyone needs to eat, and people believe that they do not have enough time. So what do? They go to the drive-thru, and the cost
it's only at $5, $8 a meal.
I mean, I don't even know if dollar menu exists anymore, but these little small purchases add up, and they eat your paycheck. I mean, I'm not saying that everyone is like this, but overall, looking at what your current situation is, can you reduce expenses to potentially increase your cash flow? I mean, reduce expenses as well as trying to find ways to boost your income as well. Next one here, 22.4 million Americans can't afford the rent. And we're also talking about retirement here. So if you're in retirement age and you're still renting, that is a housing cost that is going to eat your money. And we lump that back on to depending on Social Security. Let's say you're only living on Social Security and you're only expecting $22,000. And depending on where you live, you're renting, that housing cost is eating your stuff, right?
I will say, housing is very important for survival, right? To just have a place where you can feel safe and call home. Can you scroll back up? I think their suggestions here in this article are very, important to point out that if you are having trouble just paying for a safe place to live, then you really should probably not be investing right now, right? Find a way to live, even if it's a small place, if you're by yourself, or find a way to be able to afford where you live. And don't worry about investing for now. You can focus on that once you have your feet on solid ground.
Yeah. And so some of the things that we talked about, because housing prices and rent are very high depending on where you are. Some alternative solutions are, one, relocating. It's not very popular because...
And it's hard because when you relocate, typically it's somewhere where you don't know a lot of people.
Yeah.
You don't know the area very well. And so I think it comes down to, if you're down to that, I think thinking about, places where you do know people, family, friends, and just scope it out. See what's the cost of living there. Could you see yourself there? I mean, if this is going to make a better situation for you, even if that means,
It's okay.
Sorry.
And then another one is they could get roommates as well.
Yeah.
These are, I don't think people imagine this when they are retiring, but this is what it is, right? So for those who are not in retirement age, this is a moment to kind of reflect on what does your retirement look like. So we always encourage people, if you can, buy yourself a starter house, because that is one expense that will eventually go away, assuming it gets paid off, right? So housing is not an easy conversation to have, but when you think about retirement in the long run and you're limited on income coming in, you have to really start planning ahead, right? So next here, Americans have over 1 trillion in credit card debt. This is a sad reality.
Yeah.
And I don't know what people's plans are when they go into retirement. Do they feel like, well, I'll just carry this debt with me forever and hopefully it'll go away? Let me live my life. But
I mean, at some point, you're going to run out of credit.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a credit card's not infinite. And then you max out one credit card. How are you able to open another credit card?
Yeah. So it's that reflection and impulse buying. I think going back to the idea of creating a budget and analyzing your spending habits. Whatever situation you are in today, there is a moment to get out of it. They need to realize what their current situation is and understand what kind of situation they don't want to be in the future.
And know that there's a way out.
Yeah, I think there is.
Yeah.
It's going to take some time. It's not going to be easy.
Yeah, right. It takes time. It takes effort, but so did getting into all that debt.
Correct, yeah. Next one here. Only 34% of non-retired people feel on track with their retirement savings.
I feel like we felt that even early on in our relationship. And that's, I think, what kind of fed into our insecurities about retirement.
Yeah.
And that's what motivated us actually to go into and meet with a financial advisor, because we were so insecure. We're like, because we hear stories even over a decade ago of, it's people who are retired still have to work, or of retirement age still have to work because they can't afford their lifestyle or whatnot. And I think hearing those stories in my mind, I'm like, oh gosh, how do I protect us from that? So, yeah.
I think there is a big question that people should ask themselves, and is that, where do we want to be in the future? I know that when we spoke to our financial advisor, I sadly kept on asking, are we okay? I don't think that's the right kind of mindset, and that just kind of shows our immaturity at that time. But when you're young, take advantage of the time you have now, start investing. If you're getting closer to your retirement age, you should really weigh on what does your future look like, what's your cost of living, where do you plan to live? Because once you get into retirement age, that kind of consistent income, because I'm assuming you're not going to be working anymore, will not be the same. Next one here says 40% of workers haven't calculated what they need to live in retirement. And we just talked about this here, right? There's a lot of people who don't know what their future is going to look like. So hopefully when they see these statistics, you don't want to be one of those 48% people. Take into account what you want your future to look like. And last one here says 40% of people have no one they can turn to for retirement advice?
That's just sad, because I feel like there are resources out there, but I think since money is such a very sensitive topic, that there's resources, but no one wants to say out loud like, I need help, or I'm curious, I want to learn more. Because I feel like, especially when you become an adult, like you're late into your 20s, even if you're in your early 30s, I feel like we feel ourselves, we should know this by now. We should have a handle on our lives by now. But the truth is, like, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you need help in an area that you're not familiar with, there's nothing wrong with asking for help or looking it up or trying to figure out something new. So, I mean, a lot of jobs even offer some sort of like financial, not necessarily financial education, but financial counseling, whether they're, I mean, it's just a matter of looking for those resources. If you have no one you can turn to for retirement advice, maybe your parents aren't around, or maybe your parents, didn't, invest in retirement either. Your parents aren't the only people you can look up to, even your aunts and uncles. If you don't want to ask someone like, there are resources out there to try and understand where to go.
So going back to what you're saying, money is a very personal topic. However, you shouldn't feel embarrassed to ask for help.
Right.
Because the longer you keep it in, I mean, you're not doing anyone any favors. I mean, you don't want to be one of these 40% people. If that's the case, then that shows you that you're really not alone.
Right.
How about you take charge and start seeking for help and for guidance? Once again, there's free resources to the library. I mean, YouTube is free. I mean, we're trying to dish out some stuff here as well. But people should first say to themselves, do not feel embarrassed about your situation. If anything, I feel like everyone's in a similar boat, as you can see all these statistics, that if we're all honest and transparent about how we are, I think there are people out there who are willing to help. I mean, I think we all need each other, and I think we can get there together. So a question for the audience: which one of these statistics scares you the most? And what are you doing to prepare for your retirement future? Comment below and let us know.